On a tree-lined street in Brooklyn's Clinton Hill neighborhood stands a towering Queen Anne brownstone that most people walk past without a second glance. At 25 feet wide and stretching 10,000 square feet across 5 floors, the mansion at 280 Washington Avenue holds secrets that stretch back to the very foundation of American pharmaceutical history. This is the Pfizer mansion, built in 1887 for Charles Earhart, the confectioner who partnered with his cousin to create one of the world's most powerful pharmaceutical companies. But the story of this house goes far deeper than its famous name suggests. The year was 1849. 2 German cousins stepped off a ship in New York Harbor with little more than ambition and complementary skills. Charles Pfizer, 25 years old, was a trained chemist who had apprenticed at an apothecary in his hometown of Ludwigsburg in the Kingdom of Württemberg. His cousin, Charles Earhart, 3 years older, had mastered the confectioner's trade. They borrowed $2,500 from Pfizer's father and purchased a red brick building in the town of Williamsburg, north of Brooklyn proper, near the industrial waterfront of Newtown Creek. What these 2 men created in that humble factory would change medicine forever. But their first product wasn't glamorous. It was santonin, a treatment for intestinal worms, a widespread affliction in mid-19th century America. The medicine tasted horrible, bitter enough to make patients gag. This is where Earhart's genius as a confectioner came into play. He shaped the santonin into an almond toffee candy cone, blending the medicinal compound with a sugar cream confection. Suddenly, children actually wanted to take their medicine. The product flew off shelves. The cousins' timing was extraordinary. When the Civil War erupted in 1861, the Union Army desperately needed painkillers, preservatives, and antiseptics. Charles, Pfizer and Company supplied massive quantities of cream of tartar, iodine, morphine, and chloroform to the military. By the war's end in 1865, their revenue had doubled. By 1868, it had doubled again. What had started as a small chemical workshop was becoming an industrial force. In 1856, the partnership became even more intimate when Charles Earhart married Fanny Pfizer, his cousin's sister. The business was now truly a family affair. Throughout the 1860s and 70s, they expanded their product line, importing crude argol from France and Italy to manufacture tartaric acid for bakers and beverage manufacturers. They won awards from the American Institute in 1867 and at the Centennial Exposition in Philadelphia in 1876. But while the business flourished in industrial Williamsburg, Brooklyn's elite were building palaces on a hill several miles south. Clinton Hill in the 1830s had been farmland, primarily owned by the Ryerson family. When developers began subdividing the land for residential development, they marketed it as a suburban retreat. The area sat on the highest elevation in Brooklyn, 95 feet above sea level, and 19th century medical wisdom held that elevated areas were healthier because diseases supposedly thrived in low-lying regions. The neighborhood's main thoroughfare, Clinton Avenue, was named after New York Governor DeWitt Clinton. By the 1870s, Clinton Hill had become Brooklyn's answer to Manhattan's Fifth Avenue. The transformation began in 1874 when Charles Pratt, an oil executive whose company had just been acquired by John D. Rockefeller's Standard Oil, built a magnificent mansion at 232 Clinton Avenue. Pratt didn't stop there. As each of his 4 sons married, he built them wedding gift mansions on the same street. The Pratt mansions drew other millionaires like a magnet. Soon Clinton Avenue earned the nickname Brooklyn's Gold Coast. Oil barons, shipping magnates, bankers, and industrialists competed to build ever more elaborate homes. Into this world of gilded excess, Charles Earhart commissioned his own monument. In 1887, Earhart hired architect Marshall J. Morrill to design a pair of grand row houses on Washington Avenue, just blocks from the Pratt mansions. The location on Washington Avenue, rather than Clinton Avenue itself, suggested a certain discretion. Earhart was wealthy, certainly, but he wasn't ostentatious like the Pratt family or the other oil barons. He was a manufacturer, a man who had built his fortune through chemistry and candy, not speculation or monopoly. Morrill designed the houses in the Queen Anne style, which was at the peak of fashion in the 1880s. The style emphasized asymmetry, textural variety, and decorative exuberance. The mansion featured rough-faced stone combined with smooth brick, creating visual interest through contrast. 8 wood-burning fireplaces warmed different rooms. Leaded and stained glass windows filtered colored light into the grand spaces. Inlaid wooden floors created geometric patterns underfoot. Arched nooks and transoms added architectural drama. But the mansion's most extraordinary feature was something almost unheard of in a private residence at the time. Morrill installed a working Otis elevator, allowing residents to move between the 5 floors without climbing stairs. In 1887, this was the height of luxury and modernity. The elevator, incredibly, still functions today. The houses were completed in 1889. According to the Brooklyn Daily Eagle, the decorating firm Hertz Brothers designed the lush interiors. The newspaper devoted extensive coverage to these magnificent new residences on Washington Avenue, describing details that made readers' jaws drop. Earhart's daughter became the mansion's first resident, but the family's enjoyment of their beautiful new home would be tragically brief. Charles Earhart died in 1891 at age 70. The partnership agreement he had signed with his cousin decades earlier contained an unusual clause. Upon the death of either partner, the surviving partner could purchase the deceased's share of the business for half its inventory value. Charles Pfizer immediately exercised this option, paying Earhart's heirs $119,350 for half of what had become a thriving chemical manufacturing empire. The amount would be worth approximately $3 million today, but it was far less than Earhart's share was actually worth. Pfizer became the sole owner, though he later distributed stock to his sons and to William Earhart, Charles's son, keeping the families connected to the business. But by 1900, it was clear that Pfizer's own son, Charles Jr., lacked the skills to run the company. In 1905, a dramatic board meeting forced Charles Jr. to resign, with his brother Emile taking over as president. Less than a year later, Charles Pfizer himself was gone. While vacationing at his summer home in Newport, Rhode Island, the 82-year-old fell down a flight of stairs. Complications set in, and pneumonia claimed his life on October 19, 1906. His estate included over $2 million in cash, equivalent to roughly $63 million today. The company he and Earhart had founded in that modest Brooklyn factory now employed hundreds and was one of America's largest specialty chemical manufacturers. Meanwhile, the mansion on Washington Avenue began its own transformation in the early 20th century. As the original families died or moved to newer fashionable areas, many of Clinton Hill's grand homes changed hands. Some became rooming houses. Others were converted to institutional uses. The Earhart Mansion became a Brooklyn public library branch, its grand parlors lined with bookshelves, its elegant staircases climbed by children seeking adventure in books instead of the children of pharmaceutical royalty. Later, the building served as a Catholic girls' school. Nuns taught lessons in rooms that had once hosted elaborate dinner parties. Students in uniform walked halls where Earhart's daughter had once glided in silk gowns. The neighborhood itself was changing too. The ultra-wealthy had largely abandoned Brooklyn for Manhattan's Park Avenue or new suburbs. Clinton Hill became middle class again, though the magnificent architecture remained. By the late 20th century, the mansion had fallen into serious disrepair. A musician bought it and rented out rooms to Pratt Institute students. One of his roommates was a former member of the post-punk band Killing Joke. The mansion that had been built as a symbol of pharmaceutical success had become something like a bohemian dormitory. The roof leaked. Skylights were tar-papered over to prevent water damage. Downspouts shot water into nowhere, causing foundation problems. The elegant spaces remained, but they were decaying. If you'd like to hear more stories like this one about forgotten architectural treasures and the families who built them, please subscribe to our channel. We're constantly uncovering the hidden histories behind America's most fascinating buildings. Then, in 2007, something remarkable happened. Designer Jessica Warren and her husband Doug purchased the deteriorating mansion for $3.2 million. What they saw beneath the decay excited them. The grander spaces were intact. The bones of Morrill's design remained sound. They could restore this place. What followed was one of the most ambitious residential restorations in Brooklyn history. The Warrens moved in with their 2 teenage children and lived in the house during a 3-year renovation. At one point, Jessica Warren recalled they were camping on the top floor and cooking in an electric frying pan. They worked with new house design architecture to bring the building back to life while installing all new mechanical systems without disturbing the historic details. The restoration was meticulous. Original plaster moldings were preserved or meticulously replicated. Extensive woodwork was refinished. Stained glass windows were restored. Inlaid floors that had been covered or damaged were reinstated based on period photographs and architectural drawings. All 8 fireplaces were made functional again. The vintage Otis elevator somehow was coaxed back to working condition, but the Warrens didn't simply restore the mansion to its 1880s glory. They also added contemporary elements that Charles Earhart could never have imagined. At the rear of the parlor floor, they built a stunning kitchen extension with curved glass windows and a custom copper roof. The design was inspired by conservatories of the era, but executed with modern materials and 21st century cooking technology. Hidden in the lower level, accessible by a curving staircase, they created a sunken speakeasy room. While it wasn't built during Prohibition, the space has the feeling of a 1920s secret bar, complete with atmospheric lighting and intimate seating. They installed a temperature-controlled wine cellar. One bathroom featured hand-painted Degournay wallpaper and contained only a bathtub, a luxurious single-purpose room that would have made the original owners smile. The garden was redesigned by Reese Roberts and Partners. Mature locust and crepe myrtle trees shaded outdoor spaces. A wisteria pergola created a fragrant retreat. The property's unusual double lot, 200 feet deep, provided rare private outdoor space in dense Brooklyn. The restoration cost the Warrens approximately $5 million and countless hours of labor. During the work, they discovered historic artifacts hidden in walls and under floors. Documents, newspapers, and objects from the mansion's various eras emerged like archaeological finds. The discoveries were significant enough that the New York Times wrote a feature article about the house and its history. The Warrens opened the mansion to the public during Clinton Hill's annual house tour. They operated part of it as a bed and breakfast, with 3 guest rooms including a 1,200-square-foot suite called The Biggie. They made it available as a location for film and photography shoots. The mansion became a living, working space again, not a museum, but something better, a home that honored its past while serving present needs. In 2018, the Warrens decided to sell. They listed the mansion for $13.5 million, making it one of the most expensive residential properties in Brooklyn. The price reflected both the extraordinary restoration and Clinton Hill's renaissance as a desirable neighborhood. Young professionals and families were rediscovering the area, drawn by Fort Greene Park, excellent schools, and the magnificent architecture that had survived from the Gilded Age. But finding a buyer for a 10,000-square-foot mansion, even a spectacular one, proved challenging. The price dropped to $10 million, then to $9.2 million. Finally, in April 2021, the mansion entered contract and sold for $9.05 million, setting a record for Clinton Hill. The new owners took possession of a home that had been brought back from the brink. Every detail had been considered. Every system was modern and efficient. But the soul of the place, the vision that Charles Earhart had commissioned in 1887, remained intact. The mansion's story didn't end there, though. In March 2025, it returned to the market with an asking price of $10.35 million. By November, the price had been reduced to $9.4 million. The mansion, it seemed, was difficult to sell, not because it wasn't magnificent, but because it was so extraordinary that only a very specific buyer could appreciate and afford it. Walking through the mansion today is like walking through layers of Brooklyn history. The parlor floor, 105 feet deep with soaring ceilings, connects formal living room to sitting room to dining room to that modern kitchen extension. 3 exposures flood the spaces with natural light, the 8 fireplaces, each with unique mantels and surrounds, anchor different rooms. Wainscoting and paneling speak to 19th century craftsmanship. Climb the restored staircase, or ride the vintage Otis elevator, and you reach upper floors containing the primary suite, multiple en-suite bedrooms, a library, and gracious secondary rooms. Each bathroom tells its own story through tile work, fixtures, and those hand-painted wallpapers. The attention to period detail is extraordinary, yet modern comfort is never sacrificed. In the basement level, beyond that speakeasy room, mechanical systems hum efficiently. The wine cellar maintains perfect temperature. The house that had leaked and decayed for decades is now weather-tight and climate-controlled. Remarkably, the property includes approved plans for a historically contextual garage, designed by Kelly Murdoch Solon and fully approved by the Landmark Preservation Committee, a process that took years and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Outside, the formal gardens provide a private oasis. The double lot's unusual depth means the property feels more like a suburban estate than an urban townhouse. Yet you're in the heart of Brooklyn, walking distance from the Navy Yard, from Fort Greene Park, from the Pratt Institute that Charles Pratt founded just blocks from his mansion. The Clinton Hill Historic District, designated in 1985, protects the area's architectural heritage. The district includes hundreds of buildings representing different eras and styles, from Greek Revival villas of the 1830s to Romanesque Revival mansions of the 1890s to Beaux-Arts row houses of the early 20th century. The Pfizer mansion fits into this context as a prime example of Queen Anne residential architecture, one of the finest in the district. What makes the Pfizer mansion significant isn't just its architectural merit or its careful restoration. It's the way it embodies the story of American capitalism, immigration, and innovation. Two German cousins arrived in America with skills and ambition. They combined chemistry and confectionery to create products people wanted. They built a company that survived wars, depressions, and the deaths of its founders. That company went on to produce some of the most important medicines in history, from vitamin C to penicillin to vaccines that have saved millions of lives. Charles Earhart died too soon to see what his company would become. The mansion he built stood witness to Brooklyn's transformation from suburb to city, from manufacturing hub to residential neighborhood. It housed families, served as a library, educated girls, sheltered musicians, and finally became a restored showcase of Gilded Age craftsmanship. Today, Pfizer is a global pharmaceutical giant with headquarters in Manhattan and operations worldwide. The original red brick factory in Williamsburg, where it all began, still stands, converted to other uses but preserved as a landmark. The company no longer operates in Brooklyn, having closed its last Brooklyn plant in 2009, but its impact on the borough remains. The Pfizer mansion, meanwhile, waits for its next chapter. Someone will eventually buy it, another family will make it home, and the stories will continue to accumulate in its rooms. The elevator will carry children between floors, the fireplaces will warm winter evenings, the gardens will bloom each spring. Charles Earhart built this house as a symbol of success, a place where his family could live in comfort and style befitting a man who had helped create an industrial empire. He couldn't have known that his pharmaceutical company would one day employ over 100,000 people, that it would develop drugs treating everything from depression to erectile dysfunction to COVID-19, that its name would become synonymous with modern medicine itself. He couldn't have known that his mansion would survive for over a century, through periods of glory and neglect, eventually finding owners who loved it enough to spend millions restoring every detail. He couldn't have known that in the 21st century, people would still walk past his house and wonder at its beauty, at the stories contained within its walls. But perhaps he hoped, when you build something meant to last, when you commission architects and craftsmen to create beauty that transcends mere function, you're making a bet on the future. You're saying that quality matters, that history matters, that some things are worth preserving even when fashions change. The Pfizer mansion at 280 Washington Avenue stands as proof that sometimes those bets pay off. Sometimes buildings outlast the people who built them and the companies that made them wealthy. Sometimes architecture becomes a bridge between past and present, allowing us to touch the dreams of people who lived more than a century ago. Next time you're in Clinton Hill, walk down Washington Avenue, Look for the 25-foot-wide Queen Anne brownstone with the elaborate stonework and the leaded glass windows. Imagine the Otis elevator moving between floors, the fireplaces glowing, the gardens lush with wisteria. Imagine Charles Erhardt walking those halls, proud of what he and his cousin had built, proud of the home he'd provided for his family. The Pfizer mansion isn't abandoned. It's very much alive, waiting for someone who understands that some places are more than just real estate. They're pieces of history, fragments of the American dream made tangible in brick and stone and glass. They're reminders that the people who built this country, who created industries and fortunes and dynasties, were once just ambitious immigrants with complementary skills and borrowed money. From a red brick factory in Williamsburg to a Queen Anne mansion in Clinton Hill to a global pharmaceutical empire, the Pfizer story is uniquely American. And this mansion, more than any other building, represents the personal side of that story, the human scale of industrial success. If you enjoyed learning about the hidden history of the Pfizer mansion and want more stories about America's forgotten architectural treasures, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. The past is never really past. It's all around us, in the buildings we walk by every day, waiting to share its secrets with anyone willing to listen. The mansion at 280 Washington Avenue has many stories left to tell. Its next chapter is about to begin.